I spent extra money to buy into an ecosystem in order for me to get this one extra function out of my memory card. Let's find out. This is ArtIsRight. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. I normally shy away from clickbait video titles, however I think this one is appropriate. We're going to take a look at OWC Atlas memory card and the ecosystem that surrounds them. I purchased all of these myself, however, even if the company sent me these to do a review, my feedback and what I am about to share would still be the same. My first encounter with these memory cards happened at 2023 NAB, that is National Association of Broadcasters. This is where all the camera companies and supporting equipment would bring their high-end equipment to really show you what they have to offer. And even after seeing all those, I walk away from the show thinking that these are probably one of the most innovative products that I've seen in years. The reason why is because they have taken something that us creative use on a daily basis that most of us have encountered and enhance it in a way with a software backend called Innergize that I think really extends the capability of this card. And hence, this is why I have to buy this card reader, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment as well from OWC in order for me to access this feature. So before we get into all of those, let's quickly talk about the memory card first. So they come in a variety of sizes in 2 different tiers. The one that I have in purple, this is the Atlas Ultra. This is their premium tier that is going to run the fastest and also carries a premium price tag as well. There's also an Atlas Pro that is slightly slower in speed for read and write, and it also comes at a more nominal pricing as well. As far as the memory card itself, this is an SD card, SDXC-USH2. That means there are extra pins on the very bottom there, the second row of pins that when used with a compatible card reader or a camera, you can read and write at a higher speed. The other type of card that I have is a CFExpress Type B. Those are the bigger card one that looks very similar to an XQD, but they are way faster. Now, what they don't have in this lineup is a CFExpress Type A, and I wish they do have that, but that's what we got. Now, what OWC have done as well is built an ecosystem of products that surround these. So they have their docks, obviously, but they also came out with a few of their card readers as well. And there are a variety of them that I'm going to show you in a moment, but the one that I happen to purchase happens to be this, is a dual SD card reader. So there's 2 SD card reader in the slot. Around it is pretty much really nice, built solid quality. On the back, there is a port for USB Type-C Thunderbolt that you can plug this in your computer. And there's also a read and write protection. I have a little bit more to say about this as well. So we're going to talk about that later on when I do the software demo. Now, the nice thing about this card reader is on the bottom, there is a built-in cable. So if you take this on the road, you forget to bring the cable, well, you can still plug this into your computer. Now, I have a Mac and it also has an SD card reader. It may not be such a big of a deal for me to carry this around. There are some advantages to having this with me on the road and some advantages to not really just carrying an extra piece of equipment, which I'll go over a little bit later on as well. As far as the way how this cable tucks in, there is a groove for it, and pretty much the port, the USB-C itself, tucks into the very front there. This way it doesn't come off when you are pretty much carrying this in the bag. So it's really cool. All right, now let's talk about the Innergize software. So this is an OWC software, and when I go to their website, it talks about a whole bunch of things like this is the ecosystem or OWC. The one thing they didn't say clearly on their website was that this is really going to work with OWC product only. That means it will work with their docks and card readers. A lot of this is implied information, and you will never see it explicitly say that this will only work with OWC docks and card readers. I wish they would just come out and say that and just make it clear, because their software is really cool. When you have this software, you can do a few things, and I'm going to do this demo in a bit. You can do a health check, you can sanitize that, format the device. The other thing is you can also do firmware update on this device as well. So it's really cool stuff. Now, I say it's just worked, which it does. And then OWC Innergize enabled products, these are pretty much the Innergize enabled storage and dock with SD card readers. So any of your dock with SD card reader will work with these, as you see. And I wish personally, rather than getting this, I would have gotten a dock instead, but I didn't do that much research and I really wanted to play around with this feature. So they have one as well that is a CFExpress and SD card reader that has the built-in cable as well. And they also have this one, which is the Atlas FXR CFExpress card reader. It's a much smaller form factor. It's really nice. As far as these two go, I think they are exactly the same with the exact same price tag. So something to think about there. Now, the first thing I have done when I purchased this memory card was to plug it into my computer, download Innergize software, and let's run that right now. To which I'm faced with this saying I can't see my device. So when I click on I don't see my device, I'm taken to this website that now is a little bit clearer, and they say that, you know, Energizer supported, OWC Atlas supported product. So it's a little bit more clear now, saying that the following OWC product. At one point in time, this says compatible products, and that what's really gets me going in the very beginning, because it makes it seem like you can plug your memory card to OWC Atlas for both Pro and Ultra into any card reader and use Energize software, and that's not the case. The other thing that I also want to point out is that when I was talking to the product team at the booth, I've seen all their card readers there at the booth. However, that didn't really dawn on me that it has to be their product, and none of them really mentioned that explicitly. So just some feedback for OWC there. Just be clear about that. I'm perfectly cool with this. I think this is a cool product, but I just wish you were a lot more clear about this in general. All right, so now that I know this is not going to work with this particular card reader that's built into my Mac, I'm going to pull this out, and I'm just going to use the built-in cable on this card reader. I'll plug this on the Thunderbolt port on my Mac, and I'll simply plug in the card to the card reader. The moment I use an OWC product, this pops up right away. I can click on a card. If I have multiple, you can check multiple ones if you want. But what I can do with this is I can do a check health. It's going to run a check right now to see how is it doing. It's like, okay, this is doing good. And if there's any firmware update, it will also let you know, saying, hey, there's a new firmware. Would you like to update the device firmware? And you can certainly do that as well. You can go in and sanitize the device. So I'm going to go in and sanitize that right now. This is pretty much doing a factory reset on the device so that it goes back to factory condition. And it does take a moment to do this, so we'll wait for this to finish. Now, a moment ago, you see that the check health on my device, it was showing 100% because this is pretty much a new card. It says all files and data has been erased. So, yep, we're good. We're at 100%. And from here, I can eject the drive. Now, what I'm going to do, and a few things that I want to point out as well, is I'm going to put this card reader on the back, and I'm going to lock this up. So I'm going to move the pin into a lock position. Now this is locking the reader itself, but it's not locking the actual card that I am plugging. So the card is still enabled for erasing at this point. But I'm going to plug this in. And another thing to note about this particular pin or this switch as well is that it's not pretty much hot swap, meaning that you can't just change it while the card is already being recognized in the program. It's not going to change anything. You have to eject, pull out the card first, then put the card back in order for it to really see it, whether it's locked or not. Now you can see right now there's a padlock saying write protected. I can put a check mark in front of there, select this card, it says write protected. I can do a health check still. That's not a problem. That's going to work and function just fine. However, if I go and click on sanitize device, it will take me to a certain point. I can say sanitize Atlas Ultra, and it's going to say that the card reader itself has the write protection on it. So that's a cool protection, right? Yes, only if you stay in their ecosystem. Now, a way around this, which I don't recommend doing, but I want to point this out right now, is that if I go into this utility, and for instance, I highlight Atlas Ultra, I don't have anything on there, but this would be the normal volume where my files or any creative content that I have are on there from the camera. And I can simply click on erase there in this utility. I'll go to erase, and it doesn't really matter what file format. It's going to give me an error saying that the process has failed, but yet my volume is gone. So it's not quite as foolproof as we like to think it is, because some of us might go in to do this option. My advice to you is, if you're going to use these solutions from OWC, just end up using their software as well, so you don't really change anything or really end up accidentally deleting the volume. But this also means traveling with this card reader as well. So what I'm going to do is eject the card now, and let's wrap up on this OWC Atlas memory card and their card reader ecosystem. What do I think about them? I think being able to see how your memory card is performing over a duration of time is something great to see. I mean, I'm still guilty of using old memory cards, but then I don't also go through that much volume of files on a daily basis or weekly basis either. So it ultimately is going to depend on the workflow. I think that if you don't have that many cards, if you're really going through your card frequently and often, having a solution like this, being able to monitor the health of the card over the long term, it's good, because if you start to see pure NAND chip on these memory cards starting to have what they call wear leveling, that is pretty much, you know, these cards can only be written to so many times before, well, it can't be written to anymore. And at that point, you might lose data. So it's good to be aware of that. Now, this is ultimately going to depend on each individual workflow. Like I said, if you only have 1 or 2 cards, if you happen to have their cards, you can monitor this over the duration. I think that's great. If you're in a studio that really goes through many of these cards on a daily basis and thousands of files, I think having this is good. But I also know studios as well that would have multiple sets of cards and they won't format that card until the project has been delivered to the client. So they have multiple sets in their studios. If you have your usage in that type of scenario, those cards are going to go through less wear leveling as well. That means less reading and writing to on the card itself. So it's one of those you have to examine your workflow. Now, based on what I've seen so far, their memory card products, even in the Ultra line, are priced comparably to the competitor. They are speed, pretty much very comparable to what is out there. And, you know, they do come with a good warranty as well. So if you're looking for a memory card, this may not be something bad to look at, even though you may not buy into their entire ecosystem for the card reader or dock, whatever that may be, to use Energize software. At least you have their cards now, and down the road, a few years, let's say you want to really see this, you can just get one of these docked later on, or in the secondhand market if you can find one, and really plug it in and use the Energize software and see how your card is performing. So those are some thoughts I have about this device. As far as it being crucial and necessary to the workflow, I don't think is really going to be the most crucial thing for majority of us, but it is something good to know about your memory card. Anyway, lots of thought I have to share on that one. Hopefully you find this useful. If you have any questions or comment, leave them below. Give this a like, subscribe, and hit on the bell if you're new, and in Art we trust.